Good evening. I'm Councillor Jeremy Newmark. I'll be chairing the meeting this evening, and I'm delighted to welcome members of the public, colleagues and officers to this meeting, both in the chamber and those watching online. In order to manage business as effectively as possible, I will invite people to speak one at a time to ensure that their contributions are properly heard. So please don't speak unless you're invited to do so. Thank you in advance for your assistance. I think everybody here is familiar with the fire evacuation procedure for this building, so I won't go through that in detail. First item on our agenda is communications and apologies. None have been received. The second item is presentation of petitions, of which there are none this evening. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare? There are none. Agenda item 4, speeches by non-cabinet members. I'd like to welcome Councillor Cohen and Councillor Sullivan this evening. Very well colour coordinated, if I may say. If members intend to speak on as non-cabinet members, they have a maximum of 3 minutes on any item on the agenda, with a maximum of 5 members per item, no more than 2 from any one group. We try to be flexible, but I don't think we're going to hit those limits today at all. Agenda item 5, minutes of the previous meeting. In fact, because of a slight glitch last time, which has now been corrected, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve for signature, and those are the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of December 2024 and our last meeting on the 15th of January 2025. Are there any comments on the accuracy of either of those sets of minutes? No, in which case is the Cabinet happy to agree that I sign them, which I will do at the end of the meeting to save time. Agenda item 6, recommendations from scrutiny committees. There are none on the agenda this evening. Agenda item 7, which is our key items, 7.1 of which is procurement strategy 2025 to 2028. And I'd like to ask Councillor Shenton to present this item.
Thank you, Leader. The Council spends around £14 million per annum on goods, works and services, excluding capital projects. The corporate procurement strategy was last revised in 2020 and was due to be updated in 2024. The revised strategy was delayed due to the new Procurement Act being delayed to February this year. The strategy, now ready to be presented to Cabinet. The new Procurement Act is simpler and more flexible in the commercial systems. It's good at opening up public procurement to new entrants, being tougher with underperforming suppliers and excluding excessively risky suppliers, and embedding transparency. There is a comprehensive report attached to the order paper, which, if you haven't read already, I'm sure is very well worth reading. But unless there's any other questions, I would recommend, as laid out in paragraph 1.1 on page 21, the Cabinet considers the amended strategy and recommends adoption to full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton. Are there any comments or queries from non-cabinet members? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. I want to begin by welcoming the draft Corporate Procurement Strategy 25 to 28. It is, of course, vital that our procurement processes remain efficient, transparent and aligned with best practices, particularly given the implementation of the new Procurement Act 2023. The emphasis on value for money, risk management, supporting small businesses and social enterprises is encouraging, and we all recognise that procurement plays a major role in ensuring that residents receive high-quality services at the best possible cost. I am also pleased to see that the recommendations made by the Policy Review Committee in December have been incorporated into the version before us today. At that meeting, the committee called for stronger language on the importance of potential bidders, demonstrating a real commitment to net zero carbon emissions. It is right that the Council sets clear expectations on sustainability, and I welcome the fact that this has now been strengthened in the strategy. Also, social impact and value. This should be rated more highly than cost. The impact we make through social inclusion, improvements to the environment and minimising environmental harm is vital and cannot be bought with money. We will be watching closely to ensure that these commitments translate into real action and are not just box-ticking exercises. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Sullivan. I particularly welcome your comments on social impact and the weighting it should be given, which is something that a number of us have been pushing for a number of years. Members? Oh, sorry. Another contribution from visiting members. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. While we support the principles of this strategy, it is our role as the opposition to ensure that this administration delivers on its promises and does not allow warm words to replace real action. We will be watching closely to ensure that this strategy is not just a document that gathers dust, but a framework that delivers real efficiency, genuine savings, and true accountability in procurement. Transparency is rightly emphasised in this strategy, and we will be holding the administration to account to ensure that our taxpayers' money is spent wisely, fairly, and in a way that genuinely benefits Hertsmere's residents. It's all well and good to talk about opening up procurement to small business and social enterprise, but my question to Councillor Shenton is what mechanisms will be in place to measure success? Will we see actual data on local supplier engagement? Or will this become another aspiration that is never meaningfully tracked? We need reassurance that this council is proactive, not reactive, in dealing with legislative and market changes. So while we welcome this strategy and recognise the importance of procurement in achieving the council's broader goals, we will be keeping a close eye on how it's implemented. This administration must prove that it can turn these principles into practice, and we will not hesitate to call out inefficiencies or failures if they arise. Thank you.
I'll call on Councillor Shenton to address that, and then we'll open it up for wider discussion.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, I fully agree with Councillor Cohen's values and approach. Yes, we will be monitoring progress, and we will be making sure we stick to this very detailed and very well presented report. Thank you.
Members? No, in which case I invite the Cabinet to adopt the new corporate procurement strategy 2025-2028 as set out in Appendix A, and bring this forward to full council accordingly. Is that agreed? Thank you. Key decision item 7.2, proposed changes to contract procedure rules. Councillor Shenton.
Thank you, Leader. This proposal addresses the need to regularly review and update the Council's procurement rules, especially in light of new legislation in the form of the Procurement Act 2023, which is due to become law later this month. The contract procedure rules haven't been updated since 2022. Hertsmere outsourced its procurement function to Stevenage Borough Council, and the updated thresholds in the proposals align with their rules. The changes to the CPR were reviewed by the Policy Review Committee in September last year, and the suggestions and changes that they proposed have been incorporated into this proposal. I propose that we accept recommendations 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3 in the agenda item and recommend the proposed changes to Council for approval. Thank you.
Non-Cabinet members, any? Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. As the opposition, we welcome the review and update of the CPR, the Contract Procedure Rules, which ensure that Hertsmere stays aligned with the latest procurement legislation and best practices. It is right that these rules evolve to reflect inflation, efficiency, and the changing procurement landscape. But that said, scrutiny remains vital. The Policy Review Committee has already examined these proposals in detail, and we trust that Cabinet has and will give due consideration to the implications of raising thresholds and refining exemptions. While streamlining procurement is sensible, transparency, competition, and value for money must remain at the forefront. In particular, we must ensure that raising the thresholds at which tendering kicks in does not disadvantage our smaller local businesses and tradespeople. Our focus must be on giving as much work and support as possible to Hertsmere-based businesses. ensuring they are not disenfranchised by changes that could favour larger firms or make it harder for them to compete. The Council has a responsibility to strengthen the local economy, and procurement policies should actively encourage local enterprise participation. We will be watching closely to ensure these changes do not reduce accountability or limit opportunities for smaller businesses. The Government's Procurement Act of 2023 rightly aims to improve procurement processes, and it's essential that Hertsmere's own rules do not dilute this intent. We will support measures that improve efficiency, but we will not hesitate to challenge if these changes lead to unintended consequences. As ever, we will continue to provide constructive opposition, ensuring Hertsmere's residents and our local businesses get the best possible value and opportunity from council procurement.
Thank you. Any other comments from non-cabinet members? Thank you for your input, Councillor Cohen. I think as you have highlighted very effectively, there is a biting point between efficiency on one hand and transparency and accountability on the other. I think that perhaps the dial needed realigning, and these or the needle on the dial needed realigning, and these changes have come at an opportune moment. I think that what has become clear to this administration over the past 18 months is that all too often procurement and contract rules had become an excuse for inaction and not moving forward key imperatives. I think that this will give us the sort of optimal combination of efficiency together with assurance, transparency and accountability. Members? No further comments, in which case I invite the Cabinet to accept the recommendation that we consider the proposed changes. There's 3 sets of changes effectively. There's those required by the Procurement Act that comes into force later this month. There's the proposed changes to the thresholds and the proposed changes in relation to the exemptions. There's also a recommendation that we note the timetable for the approval of the contract procedure rules, and that Cabinet recommends the proposed changes to next meeting of full council for approval. Is that all agreed? Thank you, members. Item 7.3 on the agenda, you will see, is listed as Council Tax Setting and Collection Fund levies. The more eagle-eyed amongst you will be aware that, for very good reason, when we take the budget debate at full council, we always take the council tax setting after the budget has been set. So in order to preserve that framework, I'm going to ask members if they're happy for me to reorder this agenda slightly, and we will take item 7.3 after the 2 budget reports. Is that agreed? Okay, so we will now move forward to agenda item 7.3, Council Tax Setting and Collection Fund Levies 2025-2026, and in what's becoming an emerging... Sorry, we'll now move on to item 7.4 as set out on the agenda, setting the revenue budget 2025-2026. And in what's becoming an emerging theme, I shall pass to Councillor Shenton to introduce this item.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. I think every year the budget portfolio holder says this has been an especially tough year. So I won't break with tradition, it has. The government has not increased our core funding at all. Moreover, they state councils will be fully compensated for rises in employers' national insurance, which they haven't. And locally, we have had to settle long-standing claims for the remediation of stages 7, 8, 9 at Elstree Studios. Whilst this has come out of reserves, that money would otherwise have been earning bank interest and contributing to the budget. Our net budget requirement for next year has grown by 5.4%. We've received 2 new funding sources, the Homeless Prevention Grant and the Extended Producers' Responsibility Payments. Whilst both of these grants have specific purposes, this authority has already been more than meeting those requirements and will continue to do so. Consequently, we've been able to utilise some of the funding we were using on homelessness prevention and recycling to satisfy other financial needs. Recruitment and retention of staff continues to be a challenge, and the Cabinet are recommended to support the proposal of the Personnel Committee that additional costs of £67,000 are allocated to finance specific retention payments and market supplements. This Council is also asked to consider the revised Medium-Term Financial Plan, MTFP. There is currently a funding gap to be addressed of £677,000 in Year 4. I move recommendations 1.1 to 1.5 on page 76 of the order paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton. Ask non-Cabinet members, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. I speak tonight around the 3% pay award for staff outlined in the draft budget. The Personnel Committee and the Local Joint Committee met earlier this month to discuss and review all of the evidence available about our staff, including staff feedback, LGA peer review data, retention data and recruitment issues. You will see from the papers other benefits and strategies have been put in place, including pay structure reviews and retention payments, but our group still feel that more could be done for our staff, the largest and most key asset that we have for delivering services. The review of the meeting in this report is not entirely accurate, and I'm sure it will be amended in time for full council when the personnel meeting minutes are available. The committee agreed to note the recommendation of a 3% pay award to staff, but this did not mean that we were content with the decision. We acknowledged that steps were being taken to address issues across certain service areas, and the council does have to produce a balanced budget. We also noted that the Cabinet before us today know their roles and responsibilities, and what is in their gift or not. It is within your gift to offer more to our staff. Our group believes it is in the Cabinet's power to go above and beyond for our staff, and award staff a 3.5% pay award. This would equate to a mere £88,000 to be mitigated from contingency, and that this would be money well spent. The recommendations brought forward are just that, recommendations. And as Cabinet went against the Personnel Committee's decision last year and reduced the base pay award by 0.5%, it is not beyond possibilities that they can now choose to go above recommendations now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. I won't suggest that we take a short break to pop up to the roof garden and pluck something off the magic money tree that the Conservative group seem to believe has suddenly appeared on the premises. Anything else from non-Cabinet members? Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair, and I mentioned it at the Policy Review Scrutiny Committee, I must express our serious concern over the absence of an up-to-date medium-term financial strategy, the MTFS. This document is not a bureaucratic exercise. It is an essential tool for ensuring transparency, accountability and sound financial management, and you have not reviewed it. In fact, it's not been reviewed for the past 5 years. Without a current medium-term financial strategy, how can we effectively scrutinise the Council's financial decisions? How can we assess medium-term risks, spending priorities and strategic choices? How can residents have confidence that this administration is making informed decisions in line with our corporate plan? The simple answer is it cannot without a strategy. A credible strategy is the foundation of responsible governance. It allows us to challenge assumptions, test financial resilience and ensure our taxpayer money is spent wisely. Yet, this administration continues to operate without one, leaving the Council and residents exposed to unnecessary financial risk. The revenue budget came to all members for scrutiny last month without this essential strategy. It's totally unacceptable and effectively kept our hands tied for effective scrutiny. This cannot continue. I'm calling on the Cabinet to commit tonight to updating and publish a revised strategy as a matter of urgency before these papers come to full Council. The Policy Review and Scrutiny Committee needs this framework to do its job properly. Without it, financial decisions are being taken in a vacuum with no long-term vision or risk assessment. That is not leadership. It is short-termism at its worst, putting this Council at risk. I would also welcome our auditor's view on this. Will this administration act responsibly and deliver the financial strategy?
Minute, so can I ask you to just wind up?
This is my last 2 lines. Will this administration act responsibly and deliver the financial strategy this council and its residents need? We need action, we need it now, and we need it before the full council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. I'm going to come to Councillor Shenton and then open it up for wider discussion.
I don't accept the central tenet of your argument, Councillor Cohen. I have said to you, and we have plans to produce a medium-term financial strategy later on in this year. It is not essential for the council tax setting and the budget setting in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Members, Councillor Richards.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. Yeah, I'm listening to the comments that, you know, a 5-year period has occurred without an update. Well, I mean, last time I looked, there was a previous administration running 5 years ago. The fact of the matter is central government in that time has only provided a 1-year financial settlement each time to local authorities. That doesn't, that hardly kind of enables a kind of a longer term view. As Councillor Shenton mentions, we are going to review the financial strategy, but we can't make strategy up on the hoof over the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think I'm heartened by the new government committing to multiple year financial settlements, and hand in hand with that, I think we can certainly look longer term.
Thank you, Councillor Gray.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I'd just like to thank Councillor Cohen for being so open, honest and transparent with us, because it seems to show to us that for the 3 years that he was in charge of the was part of the administration, he just admitted he wasn't doing scrutiny properly because they had a report that was out of date for so long. I'm really pleased now, though, that he has finally woken up to the importance of scrutiny, and welcome his attention on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Members. No, so look, I think we take all the comments that have been made on board, but I think there's a very clear sense that we welcome the opposition's sudden conversion to the the notion of medium-term financial strategy being updated on a regular basis, but we also note the fact that to coin a phrase from Councillor Oakley, this is another area in which we found they had left the cupboard bare, and we certainly won't be pressurised to do the exercise in 2 weeks on the back of a fag packet. So can I invite members to adopt the recommendation in front of us, which effectively is to, there's 4 or 5 bullet points, but it boils down to noting the content of the draft revenue budget and enable it to go forward to full council later this month. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to agenda item 7.5, setting the capital budget 2024-2025 through to 27-28. Councillor Shenton.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. There's a lot of pages to run through. The capital programme is a rolling programme. Projects typically span multiple years and can be added or removed at any point. We are obliged to report annually to the Council of the current state of the capital budget. There has been very little activity in this year. There was the removal of £7 million at Elstree Film Studios, additions of £850,000 per year for disabled facilities grant, addition of 7.4 million approved by Council or Cabinet in 2024-25. Table 2 on page 219 gives details of those additions. So I say this is a snapshot of the state of our capital, but it doesn't either preclude or commit us to capital spending during the year. So I would recommend the recommendation in section 1 to the council to take forward to the full council. Thank you.
Comments from non-cabinet members? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to see that this report has developed further since its earlier version that was presented to overview and scrutiny. Previously, only one capital project was listed, which was the Civic Office roof replacement, with a budget set aside. Now it's great to see more details and a clearer picture of what's ahead. Looking back at the Cabinet meeting minutes from January the 15th, as well as budget scrutiny discussions, the portfolio holder, Councillor Chris Shenton, noted that there were no imminent projects. However, we all understand that capital projects often evolve throughout the year. But in just a few short weeks, we've seen multiple projects come forward, and I look forward to reviewing and understanding the vision behind them. At the last policy review meeting, I asked the Chief Executive and Councillor Shenton about the capital programme, which had included the acquisition of 3 pieces of land in Potter Spa. However, there was no budget allocated for subsequent years, and I wondered if there was a specific reason for this. Is there a vision for this land? And if so, who has decided on this? Were residents or even local members involved? And if not, I hope that they will be, especially following the unanimous passing of my motion at our most recent council meeting. I have yet to receive a written response, and even with this updated report, there is still no future budget allocation. Could we expect this to be clarified in the near future? And let's be honest, the capital budget is the exciting part. It's where Hertsmere can showcase its vision, create new opportunities, and support wider community initiatives. Both members and residents would love to see this journey unfold and truly understand the bigger picture. Thank you.
Councillor Cohen.
Thank you. As Chair of Scrutiny, it's my duty to ensure that the capital budget is subject to the highest level of oversight. We're talking here about millions of pounds of residents' money, a huge commitment that demands rigorous scrutiny. We do fully support investment in Hertsmere, and we want to see these projects come to fruition. We are not here to block progress, we are here to act as critical friends, ensuring projects are delivered responsibly, transparently, and in line with the Council's strategic objectives. But serious questions must be answered, which I have for Councillor Shenton, but judging by what's gone on with the previous items, I actually don't believe I will get an answer. First, how do we ensure our projects align with the Council's overall service objectives and strategic plan? Who is responsible for reporting on these projects under each heading? And where does that accountability sit? When a project is initially considered, how is it scored or rated against these objectives? Where are these findings reported back to? And do we keep a tag on these during the process and after retrospectively? Second, value for money and risk. We owe it to our residents to ensure every pound is spent wisely. How are we assessing risk and ensuring that we are not committing funds to projects that could spiral out of control? Are we confident that due diligence has been carried out? I am particularly concerned with the figures in 8.7 of Appendix B. £91 million is an enormous sum. Does the portfolio holder believe that all risks have been fully considered? Are we making sound investments or risking taxpayers' money on vanity projects? Residents expect us to be responsible custodians of their money. Scrutiny must be at the heart of this process, not an afterthought. And I look forward to hearing clear answers to all these questions tonight.
Thank you. In passing to Councillor Shenton, I think that it's worth pointing out that a precursor to receiving clear answers really is receiving clear questions. And I think there certainly seems to be some confusion between the capital budget for the year ahead and the sort of rolling 4-year capital programme in terms of the first question. So perhaps we need to sort of set out some of the basic principles again. And I'm I'm astonished that Councillor Cohen, an experienced councillor, former cabinet member of many years, is coming forward on a capital budget report asking some very basic questions which effectively amount to how the council deals with capital expenditure, full stop, and how it engages in a risk management process. I mean, none of those questions are specific to the budget in front of us today. They're general questions about how the council works, and I'm sure that we could offer some training to opposition members that need a refresher. But notwithstanding that, I'll pass to Councillor Shenton.
As I said, this is a rolling programme, and things we put into the programme and taken out of the programme, but are not subject to the whims of Cabinet members or anybody else. They all go through the proper process, through the various committees and through Cabinet and so on. This is a snapshot of where we are at the moment. It is not a forecast of exactly what's going to happen over the year.
Members. If no further comments from members, we'll move forward to the recommendations. To note, the revised capital programme budget for 2024-2025 through to 2026-2027, 45.475. Then we will agree the additions to the capital programme, which amount to 855k, set out in sections 8 to 10, the removal of capital projects amounting to 7.09 million as set out in section 11, and the profile budget over 24-25 and the following 3 years as 24.75 in 24-25, 13,840 in 25-26 and 855k in 26-27-27-28. We are also being asked to recommend the draft 4-year capital programme for 24-25 through to 27-28 to full council, and we have considered the capital strategy 2025 having been updated to reflect the draft capital programme, and that will also go through to full council for approval. People comfortable to proceed on that basis? Thank you, members. And we'll now move on to agenda item 8, which is non-key decisions, of which we have one. Agenda item 8.1. Sorry, yes, you're absolutely right. We had deferred item 7.4, council tax setting and collection fund levies. So I will revert to Councillor Shenton.
Thank you very much, Councillor Newmark. Item 7.3, council tax setting and collection fund levies 25-26. The purpose of this item is to recommend to council the increase in the council tax levy for financial year 2025-26. By law, the council must set a balanced budget before the 11th of March. The proposed net revenue budget requirement for next financial year is 14.559 million, which is a rise of 745,000 from this year. This equates to an increase of £6.10p on a Band D property, equivalent to 2.99%. This year, the council tax base has increased on last year, when there was virtually no increase, by 152.8 equivalent Band D properties. The parish precepts are listed in table 2 of the report on page 4, and again show rises far greater than for Hertsmere, Elstree Boreham Wood being especially eye-catching. With the county set to increase its precept by 4.99% and the Police and Crime Commissioner by considerably more, Hertsmere continues to have the lowest proportionate increase. Hertsmere is, of course, the collection authority, so collects revenues on behalf of the county, the police and the parishes. The recommendation on page 57 of the order paper specifies the split between the borough and the town and parish councils. I move the recommendation in section 1 that council tax be increased by 2.99%, that levies are utilised between the borough and town and parish councils as set out in paragraph 1.2, and that special expenses are incorporated as described in paragraph 1.3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton. Comments from visiting members? Nope. Okay. Members, any comments on the council tax setting recommendation? No, in which case I'm asking Cabinet to recommend to Council the 2.99% increase in the 25-26 council tax levy, and that the total council tax levies for 25-26 be utilised as set out in the report, and that the special expenses set out in the report are incorporated into the council tax setting. Are members happy to agree those recommendations? That is agreed. We will now move on to agenda item 8.1, improving the complaints process. Which is the only item on this agenda not to be introduced by Councillor Shenton. So, Councillor Chalice, over to you.
Thank you so much. So the Council has undertaken a review of its complaints policy and procedures, leading to recommendations before you today for a streamlined two-stage process. It was good to be at the Policy Committee back in December, where this was discussed and approved to go forward to Cabinet. The revised approach aligns with the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman's guidance and is already in place across other Hertfordshire councils. The move to a two-stage process is expected to improve response rates within target times while making better use of council resources. The revised policy will also ensure that cases requiring legal proceedings, statutory appeals, or those already determined will not be reconsidered under this framework. The proposed changes aim to enhance efficiency by reducing the total response time from 55 days to 40 working days, ensuring more timely resolutions for complaints. I feel this will be strongly welcomed and reflects Hertsmere's commitment to resolving such matters. If all this goes ahead this evening, implementation is scheduled, and also going forward at Council, implementation is scheduled for April this year with no additional financial implications, as the system updates can be managed internally. So I ask the Cabinet to approve the recommendations to approve the updated two-stage complaints policy in Appendix 1 and approve the updated policy on management of unreasonable actions by complaints policy as set out in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chalice. Comments from non-Cabinet members? Councillor Cohen.
Thank you very much, Chair. We welcome the updated complaints policy and the policy on managing unreasonable actions by complainants. It's of course vital, though, that residents and businesses in Hertsmere have access to a clear, fair and efficient complaints procedure, and I acknowledge that the new two-stage process aligns with both the local government and social care ombudsman's recommendations. I also recognise the stated benefits of streamlining the process, particularly in ensuring complaints are responded to within the targets. And the removal of the third stage should in theory result in a more efficient resolution process. And the fact that no complaints have gone to the Complaints Advisory Panel in 2024 suggests that this stage may not have been adding significant value. However, I would urge the administration to ensure that this revised process does not lead to complainants feeling that they have fewer avenues to escalate concerns, especially when trust in local government procedures is so important. As you mentioned, Councillor Chalice, this has been through policy review for detailed examination, and I want to stress the effectiveness of this policy will ultimately be judged by the experience of residents and businesses engaging with it. The proof, as they say, will be in the implementation of it. With that in mind, I'd ask the Cabinet to provide assurances that the impact of these changes will be closely monitored and reported on. Will there be a review, say, after 12 months to assess whether complaints are indeed being resolved more efficiently? How will residents be consulted to ensure they feel their concerns are being properly addressed under new systems? Let's hope that this new approach does not inadvertently make it harder for legitimate complaints to be heard and resolved. And I look forward to seeing how these changes translate into better outcomes for residents, and we in scrutiny will remain engaged in scrutinising their effectiveness. Thank you.
Councillor Chalice.
Thank you so much. Did you want to add something? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not the best at lip reading.
That's fine. Just to confirm that there is an annual complaints report that goes to full councils, so that would be the best opportunity to review how it's been implemented.
Thank you, and I think thank you so much, Leah. I really appreciate that. And I think also on top of this, it's really important to bear in mind that this will certainly be reviewed and as at council, but also certainly, hopefully, there won't be quite a, let's say, 12-year gap that there was between the last one and this one, if there do need to be any changes. So this was last brought to council in June 2013, I want to say. I could have that wrong. Maybe I've got that year wrong. Let me correct myself if I have. Thank you. June 2013.
Thank you, Councillor Chalice. Members, Councillor Richards.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on the comment in terms of the concern around there being fewer avenues for residents, and that's simply not the case. In terms of overall channels, we are increasingly becoming turning towards digital transformation. The use of Zen City. Our aim is clear to be as open as possible to all avenues of contact from residents. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I fully support this report and its onward progression to council to be looked at. Obviously, yes, we are fully aware that we get a yearly report into full council that details how the complaints process works. I take Councillor Sullivan's point earlier on about our staff being critical to this organisation, and I think we all really do acknowledge the fantastic work our staff do, but I do find it a bit remiss of them to be calling out certain things when they actually left our staff to be dealing with unreasonable complaint behaviour for over a decade. Not so much cupboard bare, but just left to wither on the vine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. I think that's an important point, and one of the things that astonished me when we came into office was the sheer amount of officer time that was spent effectively responding to emails that sort of delved into levels of detailed minutiae on matters that were sort of pet hobby horses for individuals that carried no standing and didn't represent any broad cross-section of concerns in the community. It's right and proper that all complaints are dealt with in a thorough and effective manner, but equally a very small minority of vocal individuals shouldn't be able to hijack the council's agenda and resources in the way that had been the case and until now. And I think, as Councillor Richards said, we're certainly not cutting down on any avenues. In my experience, local residents are incredibly creative when it comes to discovering new avenues for lodging and submitting complaints, often in the most unexpected of locations. So, I think everything's taken on board in terms of the reviews coming back, as Councillor Chalice said. So if there are no further comments or questions, can I ask Cabinet members to agree this report, the recommendations contained in this report? Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, any other business the Chair considers urgent? There is none. And agenda item 10, date of the next meeting. The next meeting of the Cabinet is scheduled for Wednesday the 26th of February at 5 p.m. And we'll close the meeting at 6:43. Thank you very much.